on how much money do I need to have before I start investing in property. And then other questions I get is, you know what, I want to make a lot of money quick because I just want to get away from working. And everybody's got their own analogy or their own thinking around what property investment is all about. Some will say, no, go and buy an existing property. It's cheaper than buying land. Some will say, no, go and buy land. You can clearly see the difference, that it's much cheaper to buy the land and that you can build. So tonight, this is what we're going to be talking about. Cool stuff. So let me go in quickly and share the presentation that I put together, just so that we can answer the pertinent questions. And, I'm certainly hoping that in answering the questions that I answer I answer the questions that that you are asking. So let's go to portion. Okay, cool. Here we go. Cool. So the introduction to property investment, is it that I should go on and invest in property, or should I go and buy a building? So in this particular presentation, training, what you'd like to call it this evening, so in today's training, we're really just going to be focusing on answering a number of questions. The introduction to property investment, what is it actually all about? How do I actually get started in property investment? And there's another question that, of course, that I've already just touched on, is that, should I build or should I buy? And others ask, is investing or owning an investment property worth it? So that's really just the crux of some of the things that we're going to be answering this evening. And I trust that I just give short, succinct, answers so that I do not keep you here long. So the first question that we're going to answer is, what is property as an investment? So to some of you may say, isn't that obvious? But we're going to start with some of the things that may be obvious for some, but may not be obvious for everybody. So simply put, investment property is property that you've purchased with the intention of earning money from there. Earning some sort of return on investment is the technical term that many use. They want to say, if I got this particular property, I put tenancy into this property, can I get money from there? Can I get a rental income that will cover all the expenses of the property, like the bond and the rates and taxes, water and electricity, and so forth, right? Other times, people will say, no, I just want an investment property so that I can buy it, I can renovate it, make it really look pretty, and this is going to be somebody's future home. And that term is called a flip. So either which way, an investment or a property that is used for investment purposes is really about what value can you get out of that property for the period of time that you actually own the property. So I trust that just giving that particular highlight then, highlights for the rest of the session, as well as for my channel, that, this is what property investment is all about. It's really just about a way to say that in this particular property, can I get something out of it? So another popular question is, how do I start investing in property here in South Africa? I see people are doing it, but they're not clear on how to. And I want to say, when you don't know what you don't know, everybody seems like they are not clear. But the moment you get into the subject matter, you open yourself up to what is actually there. Then you start actually understanding, no, the information is indeed all around me. You know what? Information is free. We are living in the technology age where you, at the click or at the typing of your thumbs, you'll be able to get multiple answers. Just go into Google and type one thing. Google will give you a gazillion responses and shows, just to show how many answers you can get for a particular question. So how do I start investing in property in South Africa? Investing in property, again, can be a profitable venture if you're doing it correctly, right? So some people will say, choose flats over houses. Some will say, choose houses over flats. And in today's video, we want to say, should we choose existing property over land? So you would need to actually understand, when I go in and I purchase property, What am I choosing? Which type of strategy am I choosing to get money? The second thing I want to say, that when you get started in investing, just be patient. Why I say be patient is that sometimes we get excited. We want something to happen. We hear no money down deal. Then we hear a framework of how it's done. We jump into it, and then we pay school fees. And either which way, we're going to pay school fees, either by learning from our mistakes, or actually going through property investment training. So I want to say, in your space, and when you do start in property, whether you're listening to videos, you're doing seminars, whether you're doing training, or whether you simply here on YouTube just trying to understand, and you've got all of these different videos compiled in front of you, I want you to be patient. I want you to actually take into consideration all the things that you are actually learning, and put a step-by-step blueprint together if you are choosing to do this on your own. Look for ways. Another point is, look for ways of adding value. So if you decide, I am buying a property, what value can you add to that property to make money? Some will say, I'm going to rent, I'm going to do it up a bit, and I'm going to rent it out. Some will say, no, I'm going to get a really broken down property. I'm going to buy it, I'm going to fix it up, and then I'm going to sell it to somebody else who will consider this a future home. Another pointer is, when you are getting into property, there are certain aspects within property that is tax deductible, meaning, when SARS comes and knocks on your door with your income tax and all of the things that you need to submit to them, with your rental property, there is a tax efficient part to it, where your interest part of how you finance this particular property. However, notwithstanding that this must be an investment property, not your personal home, right? So you get this investment property, and the interest portion of how you finance this particular property is tax deductible. Again, I'm going to give highlights and things to consider, but there's a lot more detail in other videos. And again, this is why you've got the comment section where you can type in and ask your specific questions. So we're talking still on, how do I start investing in property? They say, or should I say, everybody's got a different opinion about how you have to start with your investments. All right. Some will say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Some will say, I want to only do flips. Some will say, I want to only do rentals. Go back to why you're actually wanting to start in property. Are you wanting to start in property so that you can create this as an income? Are you wanting to start in property because it was something nice somebody else said to you? So again, these are some of the factors you need to consider when you actually get started within property. And again, get into a habit of getting the education right. Getting the education right doesn't always mean going to school for it. It is follow somebody that's an influencer, like you are here on this channel. And a lot of what I talk about on this channel is property investing, and parts of it is also entrepreneurship. I want you to zone in and actually ask yourself, what research am I doing to literally understand what all is there for me to get started in investing within property? Because when you get into a structure, the steps, the process is there, and it's made evident to you. Going to another question that we're answering this evening, it's, how do investment properties work? I'm giving you the quick synopsis, so that we can actually get into the crux of the matter, right? So I trust that you are with me. If you're with me, drop in the comments below, I'm with you. Cool. So how do investment properties work? When you look at it, the income that you get from a property should cover your expenses. Your expenses are things like I've just mentioned, how you finance that property. Is it a bond? So your income that you get from rentals should cover your bond, should cover your levies, should cover your electricity and things like that. And then giving you change, surplus. I'm wanting to get this so basic that you actually say to me, Jen, you're so basic, you're nauseating. Okay. So in the end, when you're looking at this particular rental income, covering all your expenses, you're left with this money. And over month in and month out, you're left with the surplus of money. But not only that, when you've got a rental property, there's something else that happens. It's called capital growth. A property goes up in value, and the growth again results in property. So now if you bought your property for 500,000, as the markets go, you will start seeing the value in that property over a couple of years increase. So think about this, right? If you bought your property 7 years ago and you've been faithfully paying to your investment property, your rental income has been coming in, and then you've been paying the bond and the expenses that come with this property, and you've got this money. That's one. Then when you look 7 years ago, if you bought this property for 500,000, when you look at your neighbors selling and what's happening in the market at that time in your neighborhood, look at how much the houses are going for. This is what we are talking about in terms of capital growth. We're seeing the value of the same property increasing, right? And that also results in a good profit. And sometimes, or should I say, some people don't know another part of that. It is called equity. So if you bought this property for 500,000, 7 years into having this property, you may have this, you may be look around and you see how much is this property worth and say it's 850. And if you need to do anything in this particular property, you can go to the bank to refinance. And again, I've got videos that I will also make reference to about refinancing and equity, just to highlight more into the different profits you can get from property. So is owning an investment property worth it? Some will say yes, and some will say no. The traditional property investor will probably say, no, it's not worth it, because in the first 7 years, I was supplementing, I was paying into this, and every time something happened, I was in a space where I always had to pay. So I don't see that investment in property is actually worth it. And then there's another school of thought where we're buying property that is under market value, meaning the property is a little bit broken down, or it's in a state where, somebody that wants to move in and actually live may need to repair the property. So you may actually say to yourself, I want to buy that particular property. It may not look good right now, but I can fix it up. And because I know I bought it under market value, all right, and I'm paying my bond and I'm paying all the expenses and I get the surplus, yes, this is worth it. So it always goes back to which side of the coin are you on when it comes to investing in property. And I trust again that answers the question quite clearly as to where we are. Now, let's get into, is it a good idea to buy land as an investment? This is where I'd like to spend a bit of time, because let me just stop sharing in terms of the presentation so that I could actually go back and see if there's any comments that have come through, right? So this is where I want to spend a bit of time. And I want to spend a bit of time here looking at, is it a good idea to buy land as an investment versus actually buying property as an investment? So when we look at the crux of things, when we weigh out the pros and cons, if I buy property that's already existing, I can do X, Y, Z with it. But you'll find that there's others will ask, should I buy land? Now, there are some things I want you to consider. When you buy land, you're going to find out from the property or the real estate agent that is selling that particular property, what are the rates and taxes and expenses that come with me buying this land. You're going to buy the land. You're going to have closing costs in terms of how much money do you need to pay for them to have the property transferred onto your name. Okay. And then you're going to have that small amounts of money to maintain the land from month to month. But it doesn't stop there within property investing, right? What it does is now you need to go to the next level of things. Now you need to say, now I need to build. But before building, is this particular land zoned for the reason of what I want to build? So is it a zone residential for? Meaning, could I build a block of flats on here? You then need to find out, okay, if it's not zoned, should I go to my local town planner and find out how do I start the zoning for this particular property? So now you've got the land and you're paying your maintenance cost monthly, right? Your little nyana cost of whatever comes with the land. Now they say, yes, yes, it's zoned, Shop. No, it's not zoned. If it's not zoned, this is the process. That costs money. When you're done with the zoning process, there's going to be architecture. Are you building a block of flats? Are you building a number of townhouses? What is it that you have in your mind to build on this property? It needs some drawings, some very intellectual drawings, not the drawings of my 5-year-old. Actually, earlier today, I had to scratch out some of those things because this whiteboard is my to-do list. And there was wonderful drawings. And when I look at those drawings, not those drawings we're looking for, very high-tech drawings to say what we are going to actually build on this property. Nonetheless, with that, you then also want to find out how much that person is going to charge you for the architecture of building, because you don't just say, okay, I'm going to put in the foundation and I'm going to build. There needs to be plans that comes with building on that land that you bought. Now, many people don't know that there's zoning that comes with it. There's building the building plans that need to come with it. And then there's still the building with the labor that needs to come with it. So my question is, if the land was 100,000, right? And you still need to go through zoning and architecture and building and have a whole team to go through this particular process. As your first investment opportunity within property, is this the sort of thing you want to be going through as your introduction to property investment, as your first deal? More so, many people want fruit now, manje. Is this something that's going to frustrate you? Because this is a 3 to 4 year period, trusting the process goes well. Because sometimes, and just sometimes, it may linger on to 5 years plus with all the frustrations that you've come with. And some people even leave the development of the property to later. But if you say, no, actually, I've done property, I've done a number of property investments. So at the end of the day, I've got the appetite for doing something that long. Then I would say go ahead. But also remember, money must come from somewhere. So if you buy the land for cheap, no problem. But do you have in your pocket things like zoning costs, architectural costs, those that are going to come and examine the land, building, all of those things that you need to consider. So tonight's video, like I shared, it's really just centered around the introduction to property and asking ourselves, can I buy what is already there? Or can I buy land and build on it? And I would like to say, where are you in your investment journey? So if you're in the beginning of your investment journey, you may consider buying a property that already exists so that you can actually go through the process of buying the property. And when the bank says, where's my bond fees? They are charging you bond registration fees for actually putting your bond together. When the attorney asks, where's my transfer fees? They are charging you for taking the title deed's name from one person's name to your name. And then there's all these little nyana costs that are involved in this. And if it's your first time, at least it's in small chunk sizes that somebody's giving you the heads up on where you're going to. There may be a builder that's there or a contractor that's there to do a small little refurb or renovation. Or you may have painted in your house before and you're looking at this property as a DIY because there's not much to be done, right? A lot of things, I believe, in the beginning of your investment journey is confined when you go in to buy an existing property. because there's an end to this process, and it could take anything from 3 to 9 months, especially considering where we are right now. Ordinarily I would say up to 3 months, but I'm saying 3 to 9 months because I don't know how far is the deeds office with all the backlog that was created with this whole COVID situation that we're in, with the different levels that we were in, considering that everything stood still for a long period of time within this particular space. I don't know where it is, right? So going back to, it could be anything from 3 to 9 months. So at least you're not going to be in this for years and years and years and years to come. But if you've gone through this process once, twice, 3 times, your confidence is there. You are looking at the return coming in on a monthly basis. You're looking at your capital growth on, hey, my place, I've got it now 3 years. When I bought it, it was going for 300,000. Now, when I look at everyone around me, it's going for 415,000. Hey, something is happening. You start looking at the profit that you are making, and it's something that is building up. And when you're in that particular situation, and then you take it into, hey, okay, now I need to build. This is for the long term. If you thought property investing is just for the short term, a get rich quick scheme, then of course you're completely wrong. But in the long term, you're actually sitting with this particular building process. You're sitting with the zoning process. If you don't even understand zoning, where am I going to start with zoning? What is zoning even about? You're sitting in a process of, you're going to think, what now? There are some people that have bought land. And what was very interesting to me, right? They went through the process of, of dividing the land, and the land is in sectional title. And they literally sell, maybe if it's quarters or how they divided the land, the legal way, the right way, the zoning way, and they actually sell you this piece of land, all right, and they flip the land. There are people that do that and still make a lot of money. Sometimes there's others that just buy this piece of land, Yana. They keep it there for 3, 4, 5 years because they know sometime in the distant future, there's going to be some sort of buildings because somebody whispered sweet nothings in their ear to tell them, hey, things are coming in this area. So some people will buy the land, hold the land for a period of time, okay? And when they hold the land for this period of time, later on, when the developers are coming along life, saying there's going to be a mall here, there's going to be a this here, there's going to be a that here, they end up flipping that property. So again, you also need to understand, when you're buying land to build, what are you buying? When you're buying land to build, do you have a long-term strategy in mind? But if you're just buying land to flip land, it's a very different conversation, which obviously this is not the comparison I'm drawing in today, but I thought I'd throw that one in for good measure. So that really, I believe, is the training that I wanted to share with you this evening. And also just to say, as I close off on this particular training this evening, is to say, when we look at it, we ask, is it a good idea to buy land as an investment, or is it a good idea to buy property as an investment? It all goes back to, where are you? What is the appetite that you have for that particular process? And where are you going to in the grand scheme of life in your property investment journey? So I'd like to encourage you to learn by doing, or learn from somebody else's mistakes. Down in the comments below, I've got a free 3-hour training. We did this at the beginning of COVID, and we had really just touched on quite a few things within property investment. It will give you a bit of an idea of where to start. There's other channels just like my channel as well that talks about property investing. But what I'd love to encourage you is that don't just collect information. Either learn by doing, or go through the education where you know factually that you're going to go through a process where somebody can help you go from one point to another point. So if there is no questions here today, then I'm going to say this is the training that I really just put together for us this evening, to understand the difference between buying an existing property or buying land to build. Where are you? What is your appetite for these processes that I've spoken about? And if you're looking for education, go into the comments below. You'll find links to multiple different things, more particularly my free ebook that I've written last year in September, the free training that I did at the beginning of this year. And for those of you that say, maybe I may not buy property or I may not buy land to build on it, but I want to get involved in opportunities like no money down deals, I will end off this particular video pointing you in the direction of more videos and content to what we call no money down deals. So on that note, here comes that particular video that I promised you.